Yeah, it's up. We're having some audio problems that I've just, I hope I've just solved them. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Travis. Okay. Yeah, of course. Hey, it's Travis at the EOC. Of course, yeah. How's the audio now? One, two, three, four, five. Okay, so have you got both channels? Okay, and I think someone has to turn down the boom when there aren't questions being asked. The boom is just there for questions, I'm told. Okay. All right, we're good? Thank you.
I have a question. Whose mic is right here? Yeah, bottom right. Whose mic is this? Whose? Can I set it right here? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm not gonna do it now. All right, everyone, we'll get started in just a little bit.
Hey guys, 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning. Hey, 2-minute warning for the governor. I'll just turn it off.
Good morning, everyone. Hurricane Florence is powerful, slow, and relentless. It's an uninvited brute who doesn't want to leave. The storm surge alone has overwhelmed the city of New Bern. Overnight, there are over 100 swiftwater rescues in this great city, and we expect more. Other cities and counties across North Carolina are facing challenges and will continue to face challenges over the next few days and weeks. The eye of the storm made landfall on the North Carolina coast near Wrightsville Beach at 7:15 a.m. this morning, and we've seen wind gusts in Wilmington as high as 105 miles an hour, the highest recorded since 1958. The sun rose this morning on an extremely dangerous situation, and it's getting worse. The storm is going to continue its violent grind across our state for days and be a major inland event as well. To those in the storm's path, if you can hear me, please stay sheltered in place. Do not go out in this storm. The Weather Service says flash flooding will be extreme, and flood waters will come up quickly and seemingly out of nowhere. We face multiple threats. Storm surge pounding our beaches, pushing seawater into rivers, and flooding homes and other structures. Rainwater and surge are forcing sounds and rivers over their banks. Roads across eastern North Carolina are underwater. Right now, our predictions show that the Lumber and Cape Fear rivers will crest significantly higher than they did with Hurricane Matthew. Other rivers will have significant flooding as well. And remember that rivers will keep on rising for days, even after the rain stops. Stay alert for evacuation notices around these rivers and leave if you are told to. Otherwise, stay indoors and off the roads. Don't put your life or the lives of emergency responders in danger. Here are updates since our last briefing. Right now, we have about 500,000 North Carolinians without power, concentrated in Carteret, Onslow, Craven, Pender, New Hanover, and Brunswick counties. That number is rising even as we speak. Utility crews from all over the country are standing by to restore power when it's safe for them to be out. We have approximately 20,000 or so people in 157 shelters. That number fluctuates. More shelters will be set up. High winds will pick up through central North Carolina today, putting trees, homes, and power lines at risk. We've seen storm surge as high as 10 feet on the Neuse River. And we're also seeing flooding along Bogue Sound at Beaufort, the Trent River, the Pungo River at Belhaven, the Pamlico River at Washington, and Pamlico Sound. Rivers are rising to dangerous levels. And the relentless rains will continue through the weekend. For some parts of southeastern North Carolina, one forecast shows a 1,000-year rain event. Rescue crews are working in risky, dangerous conditions that will only get worse today. Don't put them or yourself at risk. Stay indoors. Don't drive through water. Never use a generator indoors. Don't fly drones in a disaster area. If you do, rescue helicopters will have a difficult time operating. Be alert and listen to the radio for warnings about wind, tornadoes, rising water, or orders to shut off gas, water, and power. Here at the State Emergency Operations Center and at locations around the state, experts are staging supplies and equipment. They're standing up shelters for people in need. They're continuing to share critical flood mapping information so local officials can pinpoint where the next evacuations may be needed. Shelter information is available at the Ready NC app or on our website or by dialing 211. Individuals using video relay service for the deaf and hard of hearing should dial 888-892-1162, and we're grateful to have Monica McGee here using American Sign Language. If you have an emergency, call 911. We're tracking the storm around the clock, and we are in touch with local officials in areas bearing the brunt of the storm. I just talked to the mayor of New Bern, in fact. Teams will be ready to get them what they need to help their communities through this challenging time. We are expecting several more days of rain, and our focus now is getting people away from immediate danger. And then we will shift into putting our communities back together. The storm is wreaking havoc on our state, and we're deeply concerned for farms, for businesses, for schools, and even whole communities which could be wiped away. But I know North Carolinians. We're going to make it through this because we're going to stick together and we're going to work together. We have had so many people calling in, texting us, asking us if there is a way that they can contribute. Our office has activated the North Carolina Disaster Relief Fund, which has been used in previous disasters. Visit rebuildnc.gov to contribute, or you can text Florence to 20222 if you would like to help. We have a strong team that's been working hard. This team includes local emergency operations centers and personnel there. It includes the state people, private, nonprofit, federal officials who are here with us in the emergency operations centers. We are grateful for all of the help. We have with me on my far right the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety, Eric Cooks. Next to him is Emergency Management Director Mike Sprayberry. Next to him is Dr. Mandy Cohen, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. We also have directly behind me to my left, Jim Trogdon, the Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We have Colonel Glenn McNeil, who is the commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol. We have Albie Lewis, who is the FEMA coordinating officer, and Gracia Check, who is the FEMA Region 4 director. We also have Major General Greg Lusk of the North Carolina National Guard, and we have with us Peggy Britton of the United States Coast Guard. These are just those standing with me today, but we have more partners all over the state. We'll begin with having a report from Mike Sprayberry of Emergency Management. Mike?
Thank you, Governor. The State Emergency Operations Center continues to operate at a level 1. As the Governor said, the impacts to the state from Hurricane Florence are significant and will continue to be significant. Our operations and logistics teams are on standby to surge into impacted areas after the exit of tropical storm force winds. We also have a significant amount of aviation assets to accomplish various types of mission once it's good to fly again. We continue to focus on shelter operations, and we really thank our local partners for stepping up to assist in sheltering their fellow North Carolinians from Hurricane Florence. It means so much to so many. Once the storm passes, we'll work with our outstanding mass feeding partners to establish kitchens and other feeding operations throughout the impacted area. We're closely monitoring our rivers and have been sharing flood analysis tools with our county partners as well. Please make sure you follow the guidance of your local officials, and please be sure that you're staying tuned to your local media, as we do expect historical flooding throughout the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Now our Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen. Dr. Cohen.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. Just an update. We continue to be in close contact with a number of healthcare facilities who are impacted by the storm. Of course, hospitals, nursing homes, dialysis centers. We are aware of those who are on generators, and we're closely monitoring those. We also have a number of medical shelters that are open. The High Point and Goldsboro shelters are nearly at capacity, but there is bed capacity in Clayton. Want you to make sure to call 211 or use the Ready NC app to make sure you know about shelter availability. And again, to heed the governor's message of not driving through standing water. It was the #1 cause of death in Hurricane Matthew. And do not use gas generators or grills inside your home because of carbon monoxide. Thank you, and be safe.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Now, General Jim Trogdon, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Jim?
Thank you, Governor. Our initial reports as of this morning is significant impacts to transportation reported in Pamlico and Craven counties. All the primary roads in Pamlico County were experiencing high water or flooding, to include NC 55, NC 304, NC 306, NC 307, NC 33, and US 17, NC 55, and US 70 business in and around New Bern. We also have initial reports of at least 18 secondary roads flooded in Pamlico, Pitt, Craven, Beaufort, and Carteret counties. We believe these are initial reports and are not totally conclusive to date, because we have many locations that cannot get out and assess the damage because of the severity of the current conditions. We believe that travel right now is extremely hazardous south on I-95 south of Fayetteville, on US 74 from I-95 to Wilmington, and on I-40 from I-95 to Wilmington. The conditions are extremely hazardous now and will continue to worsen. We believe the impacts that we're seeing now are primarily and solely due to storm surge. So we know, based on rainfall projections, the conditions will continue to get worse over the next 3 to 7 days. So a really good reminder to folks, if they get out there today in areas and the roads are clear, they may not be the next day. Flood conditions will worsen due to the rainfall. We anticipate from Wilmington to Charlotte, we'll experience between a 500-year and 1,000-year flood events from Wilmington to Charlotte all the way up through Fayetteville. So conditions will worsen over the next coming days. We're currently coordinating with our Federal Highway Administration for early release and quick release of federal funds to support our transportation response. And I just want to reinforce one more time, the impacts that you see following the movement of the storm out and the rain stop will not be all the impacts we'll experience. We'll continue to see additional impacts in the coming days to a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Trogdon. Now the Commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. And can I begin by thanking the media for publicizing and making a priority our joint public safety messaging. This is a very dangerous storm, just like the Governor stated. Our citizens, their public safety is our highest priority. With the flooding conditions worsening across the eastern portion of North Carolina, roadway conditions continue to deteriorate. Highway Patrol personnel stand ready to respond to the impacted areas to assist local law enforcement. Overnight, troopers have responded to 108 calls for service and 30 collisions in the affected areas. As the heavy rain continues to fall, motorists are encouraged to avoid travel if at all possible. Motorists who are on the roadways should avoid traveling through barricaded roadways and do not drive through standing or running water. You have no way of verifying that the asphalt and the road itself remains underneath that water. Debris from downed power lines and trees posed a very serious threat. They can be hidden around every curve that you take, so please be careful if you must be out and drive. And the added event of reduced visibility from heavy rain from this storm creates an additional hazard. Residents who are yet to be affected by the storm, please continue to monitor your local news stations before you travel, and please, to all involved, please avoid becoming complacent. This again is a very dangerous storm, and your life is very important to us, so please abide by all the safety messaging that is being presented to you at this briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Now we'll have Major General Greg Lusk, the commander of the North Carolina National Guard. General?
Thank you, sir. Historic and unprecedented. We've heard that said time and time again since the beginning of this, and I tell you just from my personal recollection, I think we've had a historic and unprecedented activation of North Carolina Guardsmen before landfall that I can recall, at least in my time serving with the North Carolina National Guard. We've talked about the 2,800 plus soldiers and airmen that are reinforcing this team all across the state. Over 500 of them already committed to missions working in direct support of the North Carolina Emergency Management's Eastern Branch, and they're already out there busy performing many of the rescue missions that some of you are hearing about and tracking in New Bern and other coastal communities. That's ongoing. The remaining of our guardsmen, over 2,000 of them, of course, are stationed in armories across the state. I've talked in the past about west of I-95. They're postured. They're going through the last minute, if you will, preparation of equipment and everything in anticipation of some of the missions that they may be called upon to do in the days to come. So all of that is ongoing right now, and that's where we are. As we start focusing a little bit more on what may happen, or what is likely to occur after the storm lifts, and we start dealing with all this historic and unprecedented flooding that we're talking about, it takes more than just us. And we have the entire Department of Defense that's backing us up, providing us some depth and some capabilities in order to take care of the citizens of North Carolina. Currently, they're pre-positioning a lot of aviation capabilities and assets all around the southeastern region of the United States right now. And we're in direct coordination with them. That leads us to, again, another historic event where today we're standing up our joint task force. First time we've ever done this in the middle of a disaster. And in that joint task force, we have a dual status commander that was signed and approved by the Secretary of Defense. That person will have a North Carolina National Guardsman in charge of federal Department of Defense military personnel that will be coming in the days to come, likely. So he'll be coordinating that, and he'll have command and control over them, working right here at our headquarters here in North Carolina. So a lot of history, a lot of unprecedented things are about to unfold in all of these capabilities. I think we're going to be very grateful for the fact that they're here, perhaps for the citizens of North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, General. An unprecedented storm requires an unprecedented team effort. I think that's what you're seeing. And I'm very grateful for the men and women of the Guard, of the patrol, of law enforcement, the first responders out there in the field, the people at the Emergency Operations Center here and the centers across the state, and all of their families who have been left at home. We thank you for your hard work and for your dedication to this. We'll be glad to take your questions.
Hi there. Thank you very much. Joe Rennison from the Financial Times. I just wondered if I could get a clarification. It's not been clear to me from reading reports this morning whether disaster declaration, the expedited disaster declaration that you requested yesterday, has been granted yet or not. You mentioned the Disaster Relief Fund, which I think is a state fund. So I just wondered if you could...
The Disaster Relief Fund is what we're doing to solicit money from the public. But the declaration, we're still... It's being under review. We're still waiting for it, but we expect it to be approved. We expedited it in order to because this is for the recovery and the help that we need after the storm, and so we went ahead and put it in place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you obviously expedited that. You obviously see it as being very important.
We do.
And I just wonder, it's been 24 hours now, or almost 24 hours. I wonder if there's any urgency you would like to see that more addressed with.
That's why we expedited it, and we have asked for it. We're getting all of the federal assistance that we have requested right now. This is for down the road, and for the recovery part of this, which we know will be substantial, and we will look forward to helping the feds. Right, guys?
Governor Gary Robertson, AP, you were in state government or a legislator during Fran, during Floyd. Obviously, Attorney General is Matthew. I mean, how would you describe what you're hearing and what you're seeing in terms of comparing and contrasting those very damaging storms that really, seared in the memory of a lot of North Carolinians?
Those storms were tragic for a lot of people in our state. But I'll tell you, this one is so widespread. You're going to have a hard time finding a North Carolinian who is not going to be affected by this storm in some way. I still think we don't know the magnitude yet of this storm, because it has just come ashore, and it's going to be here a long time, and it's going to cut a wide swath across our state and then head out west. We know the rains are coming there. I've been out and seen what rock slides and mudslides can do in western North Carolina. So for overall damage, it will be hard at the end of the day, I think, to find a rival for this storm. We still continue to hope for the best, but the predictions, the mapping, this is going to be a bad storm. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. One good thing is we have yet to have a storm-related fatality, but we know that the potential is great, because when people start going out after the storm is when you often see people die in floodwaters. And we just can't reiterate enough, don't go out and drive through these waters.
Governor Beershal Edmay with CBS 17 here in Raleigh. You spoke a little bit about some of the damage we've already seen in New Bern. Could you give some more specifics about the rescues and who is coordinating them as well? What kind of rescues we're actually seeing out there?
Yeah, we've seen several hundreds of those rescue operations out there by a number of different teams, and I think there are still some people they need to get to. But I'll let Mr. Sprayberry give us a specific update. He's been keeping up with this as it happens. Mike.
Thank you, Governor. So what's happened is we've allocated swiftwater rescue resources down to the different counties, and once they go down to the local county, they become under the operational control of that county. And so as they send them out as needed, they also have their own assets. So I think what you're seeing out there is a mix of federal, state, and local teams that are performing rescues. And you might understand that for us to get exact numbers about who's getting what rescued, we had a very difficult time getting who is the actual team that rescues the actual person. So we've got a variety of teams out there rescuing these people, and so that's how it happens.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned don't fly drones. Is that just a blanket precaution, or has that actually hindered some helicopter activity?
Well, we know that after the storm, there may be private companies, there may be just enthusiasts who want to view the damage, start flying drones. We believe that there will be an order from the FAA coming forward to tell people not to fly drones, because obviously we're going to have rescue helicopters and aircraft up in the air trying to find people, trying to figure out what the damage is. So I'm telling people now ahead of time, do not fly drones, because this can cause significant problems. I recall when the tornado went through Greensboro not too long ago, we were going to go and view some of the damage, and there were drones everywhere that people were flying. So we think this is going to be an important message, and why I decided to bring it up today, even before the storm passes, because we don't want people to fly these drones and put people's lives and property at risk.
And then separately, we talk a lot about power outages. Do you have any update, anybody up there, on cell phone networks, on how those are holding up, whether it be a problem with infrastructure or just call volume?
I don't think there is a huge issue with that right now.
Not at this time.
And in fact, some people are using cell phones to let rescuers know of their whereabouts. So right now, we don't see a whole lot of issue with that right now. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to have it, because there's still a lot of wind and rain to come. Other questions?
I think this one might be better for Colonel McNeil, talking about some of the issues you've had with Highway Patrol, the collisions. You said 108, and then I also think you had collisions and just responses. Are those because people are driving into floodwaters, or what's going on there?
No, ma'am. And generally speaking, people are listening to these safety messaging. Those are very low numbers given the number of registered vehicles that we have in North Carolina and drivers. So people are listening to our safety messages. And the impacted area being from I-95 east, to have those low of numbers, 30 collisions, we take that any day. It's great that people are listening to the messages.
Any other questions? All right, we're back at 5 o'clock. We're back at 5 o'clock. Thank you.